it's about me. Wọ́n ti lé mi bọ̀ wọ́n mú mi. Ọmọ Ọlọ́run kò lè sú mi. Sékèsékè búlà, I'm still getting my moolah. Dọ́là pẹ̀lú náírà, ikú tó pààyà tíṣà. Ó lè pa àwọn nígà. Kí ló ń fò lókè o? Ẹyẹ ló ń fò lókè o. Kí ló ń rìn nílẹ̀? Àwọn èèyàn ló máa ń rìn nílẹ̀. Má tẹ̀ mí mọ́lẹ̀ owó. Má tẹ̀jú ilẹ̀ mọ́lẹ̀. Kó má bàa dọ̀bálẹ̀. Ìwọ ló máa fi kúnlẹ̀. Wọ́n fi kúnlẹ̀ fún wa sójà. Mẹ́ta gbòòsà. Àwílò ló kàn bá fún mi lówó mi bí ìjà.
Leave keys.
Mọ́lẹ̀. Yẹn ti enemy. Mo bad. You didn't follow me. Má jẹ́ kó mú mi. Even if not 9 minutes. Mímí ọmọ ghetto. Mo ti dájí lo mọ́tò. My grace in the automatic. Wọ́n fẹ́ bá mi yà fọ́tò. Èmi ti gbéra láti 4:30. Wọ́n lé wọ́n bàtì. Wọ́n filẹ̀. I drip on check ó tún wọ́n pọ́s. Ìmọ́lẹ̀ ó wálẹ̀. Wọ́n máa dé kóró ló sápá mú mi mọ́ máa ronú. Mọ́ máa tún gbọ́n. I don't work it out. I don't pray it out. I don't go nothing off for fire.
Are we still waiting?
Waiting be this one like this. Been through many things, many gist.
They are dancing, you are wrong.
Well, we're still just 13 on the call. What's the problem now? Why are people not joining?
Yeah, we are mixing about is that not 17?
I can see 13 participants.
Yeah, I mean we are missing about 17. That means we are waiting for about
Yeah,
17 people.
That's just 11.
Okay. Let's just start. No more time. This is almost 15 minutes.
Okay, so Francis Fitz, I missed you too. I'll share my screen now.
All right.
Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so thank you everyone for missing me. I'm very happy to be back. So today we're going to go more in depth into like design systems and style guides. I don't know if you recall one of our earlier classes, we worked on this. This is just like a very like basic style guide. Typically you would have more detailed style guides with lots of like functionalities and lots of automated components where you could have one component with so many qualities that you could change as you please. So this was just like an introduction. So today we will be covering components in a design system and focusing primarily on buttons and form fields. So I will begin with form fields and then we'll see how we progress towards the button part of it. So here I already have like a sample of what a typical style guide should have in terms of a form field. Now we would have different states of the form field. So for example, now this is like a very basic form field. Say you go on his site and they're requesting for your name. This is what you would typically see. So this is pretty straightforward. But if you notice, I don't know if you can see this, what would I call it? Is it sidebar here? Can you see this that says current variants? We have things like type, descriptive text, states, and icon. Can you guys see this? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
So can you see this?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so basically this is just like a way to show the particular variant. And if you look, we have things like drop downs where we can toggle this. Okay, I want to change this to a phone number field instead. I will just click. Why is this not changing? Okay, let's try the pin one. There's a problem. Oh, a conflict and change the applied values. Okay, let me take it back to text input. But basically, we have created different types of form fields, and ideally this should work. So when I change this, it should change to that type of form field, and there'll be different settings that we can play around with. Do we want descriptive text? No. If we want descriptive text, we can turn it on, and then we'll have some descriptive text like we have here. Okay, I know why this isn't working. It's not working because this is the main component. So let's say we take this component as it is, and maybe let's just use this just so you see how it works. And then we paste it here, for example. Let me just duplicate this so that it don't change too much. So now, let's say we want to 343. Sorry. So yeah, now we want to play around with the components. So like I was showing you, we have things like, because this has already been predefined from when I was creating the component, I created different variants of the component. So we could have one for password. If I do that, sorry, this my auto layout isn't the best. If I do that, you can see by default, it just changed to the password one. If I want maybe that of phone number, I can do that, it changes. If I want that of PIN, I do that, it changes. I want something for currency, it changes. So depending on what is, even for PIN, I can do that. So depending on what is required in your design, you should ideally create your components and create different variants to cater for the needs of your design. And the main reason why this is so important is that it saves a lot of time. So imagine I didn't have this created already, and let's say as the need arises, that's when I will have to keep creating the different types of form fields. So I will create one for name, I will start creating one for number again. It makes the work very repetitive and honestly not enjoyable. So it is always recommended that you create your components like this. So do you get the main idea? So like for this one now, we don't have, you could have descriptive text or no descriptive text. I don't know why this isn't working. Text holder, okay, whatever the case may be, you shall get the gist. And we'll also have different states. So typically when a user is interacting with a form, they should have variations in how the form would look when it has been activated. By activated, I mean the user has filled the form, and when they are currently filling the form, and when there's like an error with the form. So say a user enters maybe a field where they should enter a text, they enter a number, for example, depending on the situation. Good user experience requires that you notify them that there's an error in that state. So for something like that, we have an error state. My auto layout is, I don't know why this is expanding, but yeah. So this is like an error state. So you can see, for error, I used red. So depending on is your preference, whatever you want to do. So default looks this way. Then if it's activated, that is the user has filled it. There should be a way for the user to know that. So for that, I changed the placeholder text is gray. I changed this to black so the user can see, oh, this has been activated. It's up to you, whichever, but there should be something that distinguishes, an unfilled form and one that has been filled. Then you can see we have something for like an active state. So when the user is typing, there should be something that shows them that, oh, this is the field I'm actually interacting with at this point. So for this one, you can see that I created I used a thicker border and used like the primary color for our product to highlight that. So do you guys get the gist before I move on to like actually replicating the component? So you see how I will do that. Nobody is answering.
Yes, I think we get the gist.
Yeah, me, it's not you I want to hear. I want to hear there. Okay, so let's get started. So I'll just delete this and begin. So let's use this as a reference. So say I want to create a form field, so that I'm starting from scratch. What would I do? I would create the frame for the input field itself. That is what the user will be clicking on. And then I would also create something for the, what's the word? Help text or the title of the form. It depends on you what style you're going for. Some people keep the title of the form in the input field, but I'm not really a fan of that because what happens when the user fills the form? How do they know what was required of them? So typically my preference is to include a title separately from the form. That's my recommendation, but at the end of the day, it's up to you whenever you're designing your products. So to do that, first things first, we should have like what the title of the form is. If it's a mandatory field, some people prefer to put like mandatory in brackets. You could use the asterisk style, whichever is your call to make. So I'll just go ahead with the asterisk for since we have a target for the time. So typically you would color this so that you draw their attention to it. The title of the field. So let's call this first name. And then we apply our auto layout to, let's do 4 or 2. Yeah, 2. So that's the title. We can name this frame title, form title rather. And then we create our text folder now for our input field, for our form input rather. So this one, you can just copy any placeholder text. So let's say the form, we wanted to go through this format of telling the user, enter your first name, enter your last name. So I have this, and now we would apply our padding and all of that to give it the actual form shape. I'm guessing you guys already know how to use auto layout, so I don't really have to explain how I'm going about it, right? Do I? But people are not in the mood today. You're not giving me, you're not encouraging me at all.
Be encouraged, we are with you.
Okay, so typically form fields, the height of form fields, I like to keep the height of my form fields the same as my button sizes because we're thinking of like the clickable area for the users. So if it is mobile, if it is web, mobile is more sensitive because we are using our fingers to click. So you have to make your field a good height so the user can easily click on it. So I like to use 56 for my buttons and my form field. So I'll just go here, fix the height to 56, centralize the what do they call it? The placeholder text, the guide for the user. You can play around with the spacing and whatever to get the look you want. There isn't really any rule about this. So now I'll decide what field do I want for my text field. We've already started with gray, so I'll stick to the gray we have here. So for the fill, I would apply a fill and just use my eyedropper to select that color. So we have gray. And then you can apply any styling you want. Do you want it to have rounded corners or not? Let's just do 8 for this. And now we have our text field. So now we have this Shift A, we can do 8 for this. Now, what else? Descriptive text. So sometimes your forms could have descriptive text. So maybe something like whatever the descriptive text could be, just depending. Maybe for something like your password, maybe when it tells you, oh, your password should not be longer than 8 letters and all of that. So now we have our form, the most basic of forms. So now it's time to turn it into a component. So you know the shortcuts for components, or you can just click on this icon here. So it's a component now. So what do we would name our component? Let's name it input fields. So this is our most basic input field. Now we are going to make variants of these components and then play around with the different values, play around with the different types. Or, you know what? I think I know an easier way to do this. Excuse me, I'm going to undo what I just did. Sorry for the confusion. Okay, so now we've created one. Now, a very easy way to do this is, sorry, I just had like a rethink of what I was going to do. The easiest way to do this is create all the different types of your components, and then you combine everything into a component set. That's the fastest way to do it, because I was just thinking of it that if we create this as a component, to be harder to start creating different variants after it's already a component. So this one is one now like this. We now have to create the different states for it. So we will have like an active state. So this is the default state. So the active states, like I said, you should let the user know that this is active. So most times you just add a stroke. So let's add a stroke in our primary color. So this is an active state. With this, there is a variation between what it is by default and what it is when the user is typing. You could add like what do they call that thing for when someone is typing? So, and most times you change this to maybe like your main text color, so it's active. So this is me typing. Then, like I said, we should have a state when the user has already filled everything. So we can take out the stroke now. And what we'll do here is we just have a complete text. So first name, Emike, that's my first name. Then we should have like an error state. Bear in mind that these states that I'm coming up with are just like the basic states. Depending on what you're designing, you may have to think of different scenarios that will come up when a user is using forms. So right now I'm just catering to, okay, so instead of a first name, let's say maybe the user enters a number instead. Yeah. So this is an error state. So now that we've created all these states, what do? We will now make this a component set. So how do you know how to create component sets? We'll just select everything and then go here, click. Sorry, I need to move this. Okay. Go here and we just click, and now we create a component set. So this component sets, or this component, we can now call it text input fields. Yeah, text field. So this is just text. So now for this text field, we will now define the different properties. So this current variant, what is it? We'll name it default. This is the default state. Are you guys following?
Yes.
Yes.
So we name it the default state. This one is the active state. By active, we mean when the user is interacting with that component. Then this is an activated state. And then this is error. So those are the properties for this. Now you can prototype it. So you can say when user clicks on this, change to this. When user clicks on default, change to the active state. After they click on the active, you should change to the activated state. So that's for your interactions. But by doing this, we've just created a very simple text component with different properties that we could toggle on and off. Now, bear in mind that we could also create new properties. So this property now, what are we going to call it? We'll call it states. Yeah, so let's call this states because it just refers to the state of the what do they call it? The form. So we can play around with this, rename it. So this is states. So the property is for the states, and we have created active, error, activated, and default states. Now let's say we want to create more properties. So we could create properties like, do we want certain text fields may require some icons. For example, something like your password field, you want that I symbol. Or for whatever reason, you may have a form field that requires an icon. That's an example. Then you could also have things like the type of the text field. This one I've already simplified it. So this is just like a text field. But if you want to make it more, will I say more, what is the word now? More encompassing. You can actually create one component, and then you will now have under that component, you have different types. So for this example we have here, you can see that we have different types, and the types are, we have types like password, phone number, PIN, text input, currency, PIN code. So let's say we want to create a different type. What will we do? We'll just create another, what do they call it? Another version of our component. And now we would edit it to suit whatever property we are going after. Are you guys following, or do you want me to repeat anything I've said?
Can you like go back on this last thing you just like added?
Is it the properties?
No,
Which
really.
one?
You know, you added something just now. Can you like go back to explaining that? That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. So I said this is like for a component, you could have multiple properties. So this component is called text field. Now we've created one property for states.
Okay. I am honestly not following. Me, this would almost offer for around like 3 times now. As I want to say, I'm honestly not following. Me, the folder almost offer for around like 3 times now. Well,
Okay.
Honorable, mute your mic, honorable.
Phone fell from
Am
my hand. Are you sleeping? Brother Bright.
too complicated. Is that the problem?
What are you guys saying? Are you not following or what?
Okay,
For
see
me,
what I
today
get.
on okay, I am not following honestly because I keep logging out and coming back in, and it just keeps taking me out and in. And when I come in, it's like it's like her voice is lagging, and then I'll leave and join again, almost the same thing. I don't understand.
Okay, that's for Francis.
That's a network
Anybody?
issue then.
That's for Francis. Anybody else having issues?
No, it's
Sorry,
Smoothie. What she's
for
explaining
you,
now is a network issue. She'll just
for
wait for
me,
it.
Yeah,
it's not network issue. What after
yeah.
making that component, I'm lost.
Not
I
following.
don't know.
So
I don't understand it.
Me from the beginning, I did not hear anything.
All right, guys. All right.
Okay, maybe we should try the button thing. Maybe it would be easier for them to get it.
Okay, let's start with the button. Let's start with
Okay,
the
let me.
button. Guys, henceforth, like as we go forward in this boot camp, like I usually say that UI UX is not just something you can just sit back and just rely on or depend on whatsoever we give to you in these classes. Like the previous class has been kind of too much of a beginner friendly, yeah. And I understand that is because there are some of us that are quite beginners, but this bootcamp is just highly meant to be for intermediate level of product designers. But yeah, we are still trying to accommodate the beginners also, and that is why previous classes that's why you can see we have been kind of really slow and it has been dragging us way back. So I will implore you guys that immediately I'll try as much as possible on my own hand to try and upload each and every video that same day. So immediately we are rounding up with the class, just go to YouTube and watch the video, and also look up other videos too on YouTube. Don't just rely on one. Like I said, we've mentioned a lot of things. We talk about auto layout. Have you tried to search for auto layout yourself and see other videos on YouTube on how it is being done? Have you tried to check navigation bars? YouTube should be your friend. Search for YouTube that, okay, how to make a navigation bar. You're going to see hundreds of it, if not thousands. So there are a lot of other resources. YouTube should be your number one. You shouldn't just rely on us going through everything basically for you guys every time. So we are going to be Precious, you have a question?
See, the thing is, learning on YouTube is not a bad idea, as you said in other classes. But what I feel is that maybe you should be giving us like, okay, you guys read up on this, because there are different topics. What if I read something like that I'm not even yet close to teaching?
That is what I just said. I said we've discussed some other things in class. For today now, we're talking about components. After today's class, go to YouTube, search for components. There was a day we discussed auto layout. There was a day we discussed input feeds. We've been trying to take this topic step by step. So I'm just trying to say, after each and every class, go watch the video on YouTube, the video of the main class, of the actual class. Then after that, also check on other related videos too, on that particular stuff we talked in class that day. Do you understand?
Okay.
Yeah. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. We have limited time, like I said. We are going to be rounding up it today, so we have just short time. So I'll just implore you to just please follow along. Yeah, this is where Miss Emike is working, and this input feed is quite simple if you have followed along. I don't know why you guys are having issue with it, but let's just try with a more simpler one, which is the button. So let's say you want to create a button. You guys already know we created this together, right, in class. So this is not a new thing for you again. So I'm just going to be doing is to be recreating this, and you watch me while I do it. I'm not going to be explaining too much. So to do this, I'm just going to have a test. I'll click on my T. Then I have this one to be label. Then I make this one to be, I use our style guide. Let me say this one is body 14. Now this is body 14. I had auto layout to it, Shift A. Then I had padding of 8 vertically to make it 36. Let me add 10 or 12. 12 is fine. I have 44. Now I can now have this. Then I can now fill in this with a color, which is our primary color. Then change this label to white. change this label to white. So now we have this. So this, I can have corner radius of this to be 8. So anybody have issue on how I got this?
No.
I don't
Oh,
think it should be any. We've
no.
done this several times. So now that I've done this now, I've had this is a button, right? And this is a label. So, and in previous classes, I talked about auto layout and I talk about a reason why I usually put my own label, like the text, to be field container, and this one to be in the middle. I think it was Nelson that asked that particular
Yes.
question.
We've
All
talked
right,
about
thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
All right. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be bringing in an icon, but I'm not going to be bringing in an icon because of our time. So I'll just come here and use this one as an example. I'll copy this icon and use this one. So, but you can bring in any icon of your choice. So now this is this. I'll bring this inside my auto layout, change it to white. Change it to white. Then I'm coming. I'll do the same thing for the left also. Change it to white. Then I'll add padding to this auto layout, which is this one. That's this stuff here. So I'm going to make it 4. I'm going to make it, okay, 4 is too small. Let me make it 8. So 8 is just fine. So now I have this. The reason why I have this is there might be some button that you need a label and an icon, something like that will tell you that, okay, continue. It will not have the forward icon here. I think I made mention of it in last class. So that's the reason why we have this. So for this one, I'm going to rename this one to be our primary button. So these are our primary button. So this is our primary button. Then what else am I going to do? I'm going to duplicate this one now in 3 places because I want to have 3 states. So this is primary. And this is, I'm going to make this one, I'm going to remove this thing. I'm going to remove the color of this one and make this one to be, the colors of this one to be visible. So we have our primary color. So this is that. And this one also, I'm going to make this one to be outline. I'm just going to add a stroke to it. I'll make the stroke to be our primary color and I will remove the fill. I'll remove the fill. I can make this one to be 0%. Then make this one also visible by doing this, changing it to our primary color. So any problem so far?
No.
Thank you. So this one, I'm going to change this one now from primary to
No
test.
problem.
To test. So then this one, I'm going to change this one to outline. So I have primary, I have test, and I have outline as my button. That means I have 3 buttons now. So I can now select the 3 of them, just like Ms. Emike did, select every one of them and create component sets. Come to create component sets here. So once I click on create component sets, I will see some dotted lines around it, around the edge. So now I can now name this component 5 as my button, just like she named as test field. So this is now button. Any problem?
No.
Right. So now this button now, if I create an instance of this, which means I will copy this one and bring it outside. This is now an instance of this component, just like we did for we've done this before. Look at it here. This is pretty much what we are repeating. So I don't know why you guys are finding it difficult. This is pretty much what we are doing. We've done it for navigation bar. So same thing we are doing for button now again. So once I bring this one in, and I said in the last class, I said this is not like a child, why this is like a parent. So this is a child. Anything now, this one, I cannot change this one, come to this place where I had property 1, primary, change it to outline. I can change it to test, just like we change those ones from home to assignment and the rest and the likes. So I'm going to delete this because I don't need it yet. I'm not done with editing. So now what she's not talking about, creating other properties aside from this property 1, which can be states. We can make this one to be states. Aside this property 1 is we can create property like this icon now, this one, you can make it okay. There are some states, there are some times we don't want it to be visible, and there are at times we want it to be visible. So we can create properties of it. To do that, you click on whatever you want to create a property of. For me, it is this icon. So I will select this right icon, all of them, and come to layers. Can you guys see layers?
Yes.
And you see this stuff at the front of layers. You see create Boolean property. So I click on it, then it shows me name. I cannot name it to be icon. This is icon right? Icon right. True. So because it is true, I'll create property. So if icon right is true, that means this thing is going to be visible. I'll do the same thing for this one too. Then I'll go to layers, go to this jargons here, click on it. Then I already have icon right, but I'll create new property, which is create property. So I'll click on create properties and I'll name this one icon left. Icon left, true, create property. So now I've created properties of not only state, but also icon right and icon left. So if I have an instance of this now, I copy this, I bring it out. So this particular button now, and I have, you see, I have a property of state, I have icon right, I have icon left. So if I click on this icon right, I close it, you see it's closed, like it disappears. Same thing for icon left, also it disappears. But if I want just this one to be visible, I can toggle out, I can do whatsoever I like with it. I can then change this one to outline and also of this and of this, or of this only. I can change this one to test button only. Test button is just like we had the skip. So this one will now be a test button. Any problem? Any question?
No.
That's Nelson. Any other person? Any question? Folashade?
No question.
Folashade, do you understand what
Properly understood this way.
Is Folashade on the call? Okay. Mr. Adelaja. Adelaja Olanrewaju, any problem?
No, it's clear. It's clear so far.
Rosemary, any problem? Rosemary, any problem? Rosemary is not on this call. Okay. Taiwo Precious, any problem?
No.
All right, thank you. So anybody have problem, please speak up.
All right, sir, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so
Emmanuel.
It's Emmanuel. So,
Okay.
but then so the only one problem I have is just one. It's not going to take us time. Just one issue I have is how to insert that I
Just
on the
drag it
label.
in. Just drag it in.
Yes, I have tried doing that a lot of time, but I end up doing it another way that works for me. But then,
you know what you will do? You know what you will do? Do you know what you will do?
Quiet, sir.
Watch the YouTube video. Then while watching the YouTube video, make your settings to be playback speed of 0.5 so you can get it slowly and follow the step that was done.
All right, sir.
So this is just to create buttons. So Miss Emike will go ahead and just try, and because of our time, she might not be as detailed as the first time. Just try and recreate this input feed for you guys again. So, and I believe you should get it now better.
Are you still on the call, sir?
Yes, I'm on the call. Any problem?
No.
I think Miss Emike wants to share screen, that's why.
Okay.
Yeah, she'll be sharing her screen and putting us through the input field again.
Okay, so you guys get the idea now.
Yes. I think what confused me was that part where you wanted to switch properties. You know, you first started with states. I think that was where I started missing it. That was what I wanted you to like recall.
Okay, so I'll share my screen again. Mm, yeah. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
I'll just do this all over again. So, I'll just duplicate this. Do you understand how I created the form fields?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't need to go through that. So all I'll just go through is how to make the component set. So I'll just detach this. Mm. Okay. Okay, so I'll just detach this and start all over again.
Sorry, Miss Emike, before we continue, is Rosemary on the call? Rosemary and Folashade. Okay. All right, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm on the call.
Okay. So we've created what the basic form would look like. Now it's time to create the different states. So for an active state, like I said, typically you have like an outline showing that the user is actively interacting with that state. And most times the text color will also be that of a prominent text color. So that's why I changed that from the color used for the help text to a darker color. Then we should have a state where the user has actually filled the form. And then we should now have an error state. So most times the error state, you will use like your error colors, typically red for that. This is just like I said, a very basic type. There could be different properties you play with. We could also do that. We can also include maybe something like an icon. So we could have a property where we have icons on and off. That would be necessary for things like password. So I'll just copy an icon, or maybe for things like drop down fields. Now another thing is, do I confuse you people now or leave it till later? Another thing, so typically if you're doing like a proper design system, you should have like an icon pack. So this icon I'm using now, for example, typically you would be able to change the icon. It's a component as well. So if you see, we have like chevron down arrow. If I want to make it, let's say a password field, for example, it should be as easy as swapping the instance. So I'll have my components, including the icons, and then I could just switch this to an eye icon. It's that simple. But let's not go too far into that. I'm just opening you up to the potential of what you could do with your components and your different states. So I'll just copy this here as well, so that we could have it as a property icon. Okay, so now we've created the different states of our form fields. Now what we'll do, we'll select all 4 of them, come here and click on create component sets. So now we've created the component set. Now we have to name the different variants. So this is the default. We'll name this is our active state. By active, we mean what the user is currently using. Then we'll have like our activated states. And then we have like our error states. You guys understand this, how we arrived at this point?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so just like Mr. Yemi did, now we want to create more properties. So remember he selected so say we want to create a property where some fields will have icons and some won't have icons. For example, a text field shouldn't really require any icon, but something like a drop-down text field will most likely require an icon, or something like a password field will most likely require an icon. So now that we know that there will be instances where we don't need icons, it makes sense to create variants without that icon. So just like Mr. Yemi did, we would click on this icon and now create another property. So property is, what do we call it now? Icons, right? Let me remove this as components. Where is the button one? What did you name that icon property?
Icon right, icon left.
Okay, so let's name this icon left. So we come here to this layer, whatever, create Boolean property. So now it's going to be icon right. So right now we've created another property. So this our components now we would have versions where, why is it not showing the second property?
It's until you create an instance of it, like until you bring it, like
sorry, I'm looking at it. I was clicking on individual ones.
Yeah.
So that's one instance now. So let's say another one, we don't want descriptive text, for example. So we'll highlight all of this and do the same, create property. So now our property will be descriptive text. So now we have our text field now with different properties. The property one, let's rename this state. So this is called state. So we have our text fields with different states, and we could play around with different different combinations of it. So let's call this input text field. So now let's experiment. Do you guys understand?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's run a quick experiment. We just created this. So now it's an input text field. Let's see. Do we want it to be active? We can make it active. Do we want to delete the icon? Deleted the icon. Sorry, the auto layout settings aren't the most ideal. That's why it's changing as we are playing around with the icons. Do we want descriptive text or not? We can toggle that on and off. So that's the basic idea. Whatever you find yourself designing, you can play around with the different settings to give you your most ideal form or your most ideal component, be it a button or a form. Do you get the idea?
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I wanted to ask, because it feels like for both the inactive states, sorry, the default state and the active states, any inactive and active, it seems like both icons are like triggered still, like they are still on. So this other one, this inactive state, should the colors of that button, or sorry, the color of the icon, should it still be like this? That's what
Oh,
I'm trying to.
no. Like ideally, the button of your icon should also be highlighted when it is what's the word, active. So those are just like the styling tips. But I just want you guys to get the main idea behind creating different components and different properties for the components. After you've done that, now you can start playing around. So now you raised a very good point. So I'll just come here and change this. So I'll change this to our primary color. The difference isn't really that much because of our colors. If our colors were maybe more obvious, say for example, maybe like a purple or something very obvious, it would be very obvious that this is highlighted. But yeah, you get the idea. Depending on what you are working on and the colors you are working with, you should make the icons highlighted as well. Mr. Yemi, do you want to add anything?
Okay, that's pretty much creating components, and you will find this useful when you want to start designing proper. For example, this
Is
is
it my network or I can't really hear you?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello.
I can hear you clearly.
Okay. All right. So I'm saying,
I can hear you.
This will come in handy when we are developing our style guide. And what do I mean? I'm coming. Let me try and share my screen. Our time is very, very, very fast spent. Who is that? Rosemary, please mute your mic. All right. So you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. If you can see this file Miss Emike was working with, you see how cumbersome it is. So that is how you create a star guide from scratch. You see this one too has a check, all these jargons here. That is how it is being created. Also this one too, as this is we call this one tag. So it is same way it is being created, but it's just coming up together. So we are going to be coming up with a star guide, a very cumbersome one. Now we have, let me delete this. Now we have star guide for our test, and also a component for our button, right? We have this. So we can, as well as, just like what she did earlier, this is, let me do this. Let me create a variant of this. So what I just did is create a variant of a state that is already in existence. Like this is a component, this is a component, this is a component by itself. So we could create a variant of each component, right? Or we can do like we do in the beginning, have the components or have the element already, and select all of them and create component sets. If you are creating component set, that means you are creating each of them as a component. That is what component set actually means. That means this is a component, this is a component, this is a component, this is a component, this is also a component. All of them are components. So they are component sets. So let me just do this. So we can have this, then and I'll do something like this for this one. What is this size? This is 552. So I now do, let's use 390 for this experimental purpose. So I now change the color of this one to the fill of this to be 100 back, 100, and I change this one to be this. Now what I want to achieve with this is I'll do same thing for this one too. So what I want to achieve with this is I will change this one now from state 4 to button large, then button large primary. Then I will change this one to button large outline. So what have I done with this, with what I just created? Now let's assume we want to now develop, create a screen like this one. Let me just copy this. And I paste this here. So we now want to create a screen like this one, but instead of using all these jargons here, we use we use the component sets that we have created. This component is now an asset. Like I told you in the previous classes, once you create a component, it becomes an asset and you can use it all over your design, like as a team. So to do that, you just go to assets. Once you go to assets, it's going to load. Look at playground. Look at the one we created in the last classes. This is for navbar. This is for the status bar we created. So we look for this one that we just created. You look for this one that we just created, this input field. I'm coming, local component. Let me just search for it. Input field, input. This is it here. Is it? Okay, this is it. I think this is it. You bring it in. So it is now in my design. Then I will now use it for my design. I'll just bring it and drop it here. So I can now change it to no, I think I picked the wrong one. I wanted to pick. Oh, it's actually the right one, but the size, I think it's designed for web. This one is designed for web and not mobile. So let's use this one. Let's bring this one in. I'll copy this, and paste this one here. Then I'm going to do some changes and paste it here. Sorry, not here. I'll paste in our design. So I'm going to change it to sorry, the auto layout is not so perfect. So this particular design, this input field, as you can see, it's very long. So it is made for web version of the design. But let's assume this is our design now. This is our design now. Let's assume this is our design. And we have our components here. We have this one here. So we now have another one here, something like this. So that means we can now do this. But since we have just this one, we already have all the components we need. We just duplicate this one, Control D. Then I can do anything I want from this one to, okay, I can just rename this one to first name, last name. I don't forget, for name, I don't need description text. So I'm just going to off it. Then this one too, I will off it. Then I will duplicate this one also. Then I'm going to on the descriptive text because I'm using this one for password now. Password. Then I'll change this descriptive text to be input password. Forget password rather. Forget password. You see how it's making my work easy. Control A. I will bold this one. Then I don't know if this will work. Nope. Let me see. Okay, I'll just do it from here. Yeah, I'll just bring this one down here. So that's pretty much it. Then for my button also, I can do same thing for my button. Bring my button here. Then I don't need this icon there. I can just hide it. Then I name this one to be continue. So that is why we do this, to make our work easier. And if you remember the last class, we tried to create for different states, where I told you as a designer, you're going to create for your different states, for both input, both error, both everything. So to do that, to also be easy for you if you've used your component, I'll just duplicate this, then change this one from this place to, from this state to error state. Just change it to error. So it will be very easy for you to design then this one, this button. Now, if we have created for this button component, we are not done creating it. If we are done creating it, there will be another state for inactive states, whereby I can just come here and come and do it also for inactive state. I'll click on this, make a variant of it. Then the field is going to be something like our background text. Then this one will be something like our background color. So now I will rename this to be inactive. I'll come here, state 6 will be inactive. Yeah, so if I come here now, if I come to this button now, I can now have inactive here. Sorry, I mixed the spelling. So I can have inactive here, change it to inactive. So that is pretty much why we are using all of these. So it's going to come up together and you're going to see as we start, this is going to get Kumbazon. So, but for now, we did the input field and the button field. So I believe there should be no problem. All those that I'm doing, don't mind, forget those ones. Just focus mainly for this class, focus mainly on these two, how to create these two successfully. So after this class, look at, I'll try and upload the video to the YouTube tonight. So look at it again and also search for related videos on YouTube also. I'm going to drop the a search tag, something you can search for on the channel, so that will help you learn more regarding creating variants and properties of components. So any question? Wait, have I been talking to myself since morning?
No question.
No.
All right.
No questions.
Okay, aside question, is it understandable?
Yes, sir.
That's Salami. Anybody?
Yeah, it is.
Boss, please, I think you should check the chat to share. Somebody say something there.
All right. Okay, frankly, Alpha, assignment, right? Are you guys done with the attendance?
Yes.
Yes.
I didn't see the attendance, so I'll be leaving and joining.
Okay. Regarding the assignment, I will try and work on that and make an assignment relating to, but it's not even supposed to be, it's something you can just take up and challenge yourself. Try and recreate what is being done in class today. That is enough as an assignment for you guys. So just try and recreate this thing that we do now. So once you get that, search for other videos, other related content. I think that is enough.
Sorry, please, can you drop the images for that last thing we worked on? That's for the animated navigation bar. Can you like send the images to like the group chat or something?
Animated navigation bar?
Not animated, but this thing we did now, the navigation bar we did, yeah.
All right. I'm going to, before we call it a night, I'm going to send this file to you guys because we're not going to be replicating this again. All these ones is something you already know how to input your test, use your test tool, and everything is just repetition and arrangements. So I'm going to send this file to you for your own practice. And also it will contain this navigation bar too.
All right, no problem.
Yeah. So any other question, any other thing? Okay. So in the absence of no question, I can say we can call it a night, right?
Sorry, I need your playlist too. Maybe I'll DM you for that one.
All right, no problem. Okay, guys.
To everybody,
All right, guys. Practice. Check the YouTube videos and also check for other videos too. And I believe it's something you're going to get. It's not hard. It's just practice that you guys need. It's just practice. So we can call it a night, right?